Hey, everybody, and welcome to the On Deck podcast presented by LineStar. I'm Shannon Sommerville. We'll be joined by Tyler Wiemann in just a bit to go over some of your daily fantasy baseball projections, as well as some prop bets and some home run calls. But first things first, let's kick things off with a weather report. Taking a look at some doubleheader action. Arizona at Washington, be around 50 degrees, 22% chance of rain, partly cloudy, 18-mile-an-hour winds out to right. Then over at Citi Field, another doubleheader there as the Giants take on the Mets. 51 degrees, 3% chance of rain, and 26-mile-an-hour winds to right. We've got the White Sox at the Guardians. 41 degrees, 8% chance of rain, and 21-mile-an-hour winds left to right. We'll go over to Detroit, where the Yankees are paying a visit. 40 degrees there, 17% chance of rain, 13-mile-an-hour winds to left. Toronto at Boston, 48 degrees there, 10% chance of rain, and 14-mile-an-hour winds to center. Tampa Bay Rays at the Cubs. Wrigley Field will be around 42 degrees. No chance of rain there. 9-mile-an-hour winds, just some light breeze that will be blowing in right to left. Then taking a look at Minnesota at Kansas City, 55 degrees at Kauffman Stadium, 25% chance of rain. Possible rain out conditions here. Winds will be around 10-mile-an-hour winds right to left. Phillies at Rockies. This one will be the warmest game of the day. 73 degrees at Coors Field, 1% chance of rain, and 13-mile-an-hour winds out to right. Baltimore at Oakland, 58 degrees there. No chance of rain, clear skies, 6-mile-an-hour winds, so very light breeze out to right. Then taking a look at San Diego, the Reds paying a visit to the Padres, 61 degrees there. No chance of rain and 8-mile-an-hour winds left to right. Lastly, we've got the Braves at the Dodgers in a 10-10 first pitch, 63 degrees, 0% chance of rain, clear skies, and 12-mile-an-hour winds to right center. So that's a look at our weather forecast for today. Not as bad as yesterday, but still some conditions to keep an eye on. Now, Tyler Wiemann joins us to talk a little daily fantasy baseball projections. And first things first, we got to talk about some highly owned pitchers today. And when you talk about a highly owned pitcher, you're going to always see Corbin Burns pop up. The Brewers righty is taking on the Pirates today and is highly owned. What do you expect from him in his matchup today?
Yeah, obviously he's going to be highly owned. He's by far the best pitcher on the slate. I mean, I shouldn't say by far, but he is the best pitcher on the slate. He has a 30% combined K rate. He's going against Pittsburgh, who only has a 3.1 implied team total. So pretty much it's the classic good pitcher versus bad offense, which is going to just raise the ownership quite a bit. The other thing today is that there's three pitchers way higher owned than everybody else. And so when, your selection of pitchers gets pushed down so much, ownership goes up a little bit higher too. Where Corbin Burns, we're looking at probably around 60% on DraftKings and 50% on FanDuel.
So something definitely to take note there. He did toss 7 shutout innings last time out, so maybe worth the money or...
Absolutely. I mean, he's in a great spot. Could be a day where you don't want to get too tricky a pitcher, too.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Padres righty Joe Musgrove going up against the Reds today. 50% owned on DraftKings. What are you liking about the Moose's matchup today?
All right, we've been talking a lot of Padres to start the season. I promise I'm not trying to push that in. It is just what ownership projections are showing us as far as Musgrove. But he's a good pitcher. He's in a decent spot. He has a 26 combined K rate. Over his last 5 starts, he actually has a super low 2.93 FIP. Just to put that into perspective, over his last 20, it's at like 3.93. So he's been quite a bit better lately than he has historically. The other thing is we can go back to the implied total. Cincinnati's 3.4, which is another one of the lowest ones on the slate. The bad with Musgrove today is in 48 plate appearances, Cincinnati is hitting 286 versus him, and they have 5 home runs with only a 12% K rate. So maybe the upside isn't quite there, but I mean,
the Reds are still not batting well this season, and
they've been awful.
been ragging on them the past few days,
Yeah.
actually, kind of picking on them a little bit, but for a good reason. They have the second lowest batting average and the fifth highest strikeout rate right now.
Yeah, I mean, and what do we really expect? Like their total salary is like 10% of what the Dodgers are.
Right. So it could be a good option if you're willing to take a little bit of a risk there. Let's talk about Robbie Ray, Seattle Mariners lefty, going up against Texas today. Coming off maybe not a great outing versus the White Sox, where he gave up 6 earned runs. 3 of those were home runs. Mm-hmm. But what do you like about his matchup against the Rangers?
So I'll start with Robbie Reyes coming in probably around 30% on DraftKings and like 15 to 17% on FanDuel. Mm-hmm. Robbie Reyes, obviously good pitcher, Cy Young winner from last year. So all of that is good stuff. The other thing is he's done really well against Texas. He has, in 78 plate attempts, Texas is hitting 143 against him, and they have a 39% K rate.
Okay, I like those odds right there.
But there is some bad to go about with Robbie Ray. One thing is if you look over his last 20 starts, his FIP is significantly lower or higher than his ERA. His ERA is only 2.7, but the FIP is pushing 3.7. Another thing is over the last 5 starts, his FIP has been 7.31. So he's been significantly worse recently. Ray has always been a pitcher who has been extremely good. He has great stuff, but has had command problems. And over the last 5 games or so, he's walking 4.6 batters per 9. So his command may have been slipping a little bit, which is obviously something to watch.
And if it's not there, it seems like it's really not there, and hitters are taking advantage.
And meanwhile, Texas has a 181 WRC plus against lefties. So this one really could go either way.
Sure. Good points there. So let's take a look now at some low-owned pitchers, which it's weird to see Walker Buehler as a low-owned pitcher. The Dodgers are taking on the Braves again today. So you like this matchup for him?
Yeah. Well, again, it's a decent offense. We went over this yesterday. Atlanta is a good offense, although they've started with a little bit sluggish. Right now, they're only kind of a middle-of-the-road offense, but we know their potential. And anytime I see a potential Cy Young pitcher at like 5%, it draws my attention. I'm going to be interested. So that's one thing. His combined K rate is going to be 24%. But in 130 plate attempts, Atlanta's actually hitting him decently. And they are he's giving up a 285 average and about a 26% K rate with Buehler. So this one really is another one, could go either way.
Right.
It is a lower implied total, with that ownership savings on some other guys. I'm absolutely worth taking a chance. I love
Walker Buehler. He was my pick this year for a Cy Young candidate. I think it's the passing of the torch from Clayton Kershaw to him, and he's just going to take it and run with it.
Could be. He's a great pitcher.
But it could be interesting to see, when the Braves bats emerge, because we know they're going to, right?
It's
just a matter of time.
Yeah. Maybe it waits till Acuna's back.
We'll see. Maybe it does, and that's the spark that they need. Let's take a look at Cole Irvin for the Oakland A's. The lefty is going up against the Baltimore Orioles. Now, he hasn't thrown a lot of strikeouts this season at all, but the Orioles are the 6th worst team in terms of batting average this season. Is that kind of where you're targeting with this matchup?
That's totally it. Cole is cheap. As we've kind of gone over, there's, besides, really Burns, there's a lot of question marks on this slate for pitchers. Irvin seems kind of like a safer option. Baltimore striking out 30% of the time. And has a super low 0.077 ISO versus lefties. So it's really something, to target. Also, just some historicals on their splits. And 224 plate attempts versus lefties. Baltimore is only hitting 227, and they have almost a 28% K rate. So they have a decent history as just being bad against lefties. Irvin's not a spectacular pitcher, 16% K rate, but I think he could get it done. And the implied total for Baltimore is only 3.6.
All right, so just kind of taking advantage of some stats and
yeah,
anytime you can do that.
Exactly. And again, if you went Irvin and Burns, you're
right. Yeah.
saving a lot of money with Irvin. You're paying up with Burns, and it's still going to let you get to some of the better stacks on the site.
Speaking of better stacks, perfect segue. Thank you, Tyler. We'll take a look at the highest owned stacks here. Phillies going up against Kyle Freeland. Looks like this is a scenario where we're just going to Coors Field for obvious reasons.
Absolutely. And Coors Field let all of us down yesterday.
It really did.
I think you had your home pick
my
with
home
Coors.
Run pick.
Ryan's home run pick was Coors. I think my prop bet was Coors. All of them failed, but it happened.
These things happen.
But
we're going back there today for our stacks.
The rest of the gambling DFS world was all over Phillies yesterday also. So maybe that keeps their ownership a little bit further down.
Sure.
Where, it should just be like yesterday where they're super high owned. But in Colorado, big reason why. And then Freeland is also giving up a lot of hard contact to righties at a .225 ISO. So we don't really need to go into too much detail.
No, he gave up 5 runs in each of his starts. I think just 1 strikeout in his last game. So
exactly.
Definitely Phillies bats could unload on him, potentially.
Absolutely.
And then on the other side of that matchup, we've got the Rockies going up against righty Kyle Gibson. Last time out, he gave up 4 earned runs to the Marlins. Although in his first start, he looked really good, 10 strikeouts and 7 scoreless. So it's kind of like, which one are we going to see?
If this wasn't in Colorado, I absolutely would be writing up Gibson as like a low-owned play today. But it's in Colorado.
Right.
So,
good point.
There's the high implied total, which took me off of him. Colorado's also a top 10 team versus righties. They have a 116 WRC plus to start the year. Gibson has shown times where he can get hit hard. A lot of his stuff is based on movement. So in Colorado and that altitude, if the pitch isn't moving as much, he can get hit hard.
All right. So those are some high-owned stacks to target. Now let's take a look at some of the lower-owned stacks. And the first one we're going to look at is Boston going up against Yusei Kikuchi for Toronto. Now, what do you like about this matchup?
I like that you just nailed the pronunciation.
Oh, yeah. We looked that up just to make sure before.
To be honest, I don't understand why Boston isn't higher owned today. They have the second highest game total on the slate. They have the third highest team implied total behind both the Colorado teams. But ownership's just kind of forgotten about them. And in 35 plate attempts, Boston's hitting .273 versus Kikuchi with a solid .364 ISO. So they're hitting him hard. Kikuchi's also way worse against righties, and Boston has a lot of good ones. So it's, we don't really need to stretch it out.
Sure. All right, Seattle going up against Texas Rangers righty John Gray, who most recently gave up 3 earned runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, and 4 innings pitched. What are you liking about that matchup?
So this is a little bit of a risky one. Seattle's going to be virtually unowned. But John Gray is a very inconsistent pitcher.
Right.
He has spent his whole career in Colorado, but he's always been worse going away.
That's so fascinating to
doesn't
me.
make sense. So I'm thinking that home away splits might even be further apart this year now that he's in Texas. And so again, he's going away just to show some data as far as his home erode. At home in Colorado, he is giving up like a 257 average. Away 263, which again, it's not significant, but it's a Colorado versus
given
away.
The fact that it's Coors Field.
In his career, his ERA away is 4.67, so he absolutely can get hard. The other thing is that Seattle in 43 plate attempts is hitting 250 versus him with a pretty high .306 ISO. So Seattle's hitting Gray hard in the past. He's away. I'm going to take my swings.
All right, so some great options for you in daily fantasy if you are playing today. As always, make sure you check weather conditions, lineups, etc. Before you place your lineup into all those contests, of which Tyler's pretty good at. Won $10,000 last week. We're going to keep bragging about you for that. That's pretty awesome.
Before we move on, I actually do want to add one more, which is the Dodgers. And we can kind of tease this because Dodgers may come up in a little bit for somebody's prop bet. But the Dodgers have hit Fried really hard. So just because he is a good pitcher, don't totally cancel them out.
Yeah.
Fried is giving up a 314 average versus the Dodgers and 9 home runs and 155 plate attempts.
That was something I was looking at earlier, and I'm glad you made that point because you see one of the top pitchers and you automatically are trying to stay away from them. But then when you look deeper into it, I was looking at some of the Dodgers hitting against him, and you say, wow, they can get to him.
Yeah,
so,
they absolutely
historically
could.
Speaking.
And they're another one where they're an expensive stack. If nobody's on them, the lineup's full of great hitters.
Right.
Where they can really get after a team. And if you get to Atlanta's bullpen, maybe you can beat them up a little bit more.
All right. Well, good luck in your daily fantasy. And now it is time for our home run calls. Now, we have gotten one of us has gotten the home run call correct every game this season, with the exception of yesterday.
Yeah.
We all stumble sometimes. It's a part of the game.
Weebles wobble.
But it's how you get back up, and I think we do that today. Who's your home run pick for today?
I am going to the Phillies in Colorado. Might be cheating a little bit, but we're going to go Nick Castellanos, which I butchered that.
But just a Coors Field game. We're just liking the matchup there.
Exactly. It's in Coors. He hits the opposing pitcher hard. Freeland gives up home runs.
Well, I am going to Wrigley Field. I'm taking a look at Seiya Suzuki. He's just been one of the best stories, in my opinion, in Major League Baseball right now. Just absolutely on fire. Batting .429 on the season. Are you kidding me?
He's been incredible.
Just awesome. 4 home runs. .938 slugging versus right-handed pitching. So he's going up against Rays righty Matt Whistler at Wrigley. Of course, it's probably an opener situation with the Rays, so he'll probably see some other different pitchers as well. But I think he goes yard today at Wrigley. He's just been so phenomenal. He was my pick for Rookie of the Year at the beginning of the season. And do you really see anyone catching that guy for that award?
I mean, it's real early in the season, but now.
He is, I think, 28, but, so it's a little
still
bit.
His first year. And
He's still considered rookie status. So I do think he goes yard today at Wrigley Field. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and retweet us with our home run picks for your chance to win some merchandise, some cash. So keep an eye on that. Now it is time for prop bets. 7 in a row. Pretty incredible feeling, being on a roll. Oh my gosh, do we have actual pyrotechnics today? Is this a candle?
This is a candle.
We got
7 in a row.
Wow. This is...
It's the start of our pyrotechnics.
Special moment.
Start of our props.
7 props in a row. I'd like to thank everybody at LineStar. No, this is awesome. I'm guessing we're not allowed fire yet in the set.
That's fire. We have
it's
some
against fire building codes.
Exactly.
But awesome. So yeah, we've been kind of on a roll with our props. So we're trying to keep it going.
She's been killing it.
I've been feeling a little more pressure, but yesterday I was saying I picked Freddy Freeman over 1.5 bases, and he hits the bomb, which was awesome. I just felt like I was watching like a Taylor Swift song, like Taylor Swift revenge song, but baseball. It was kind of a beautiful thing. And I was actually at the DMV, and I got your text, and I was like, yes, this is awesome.
First at bat versus
on fire.
versus
7 in a row, going for 8 today. So, do you want to go first? Should I go first?
I mean, you got to.
I got to go first. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Trey Turner. I'm sticking with the Dodgers. They did me right yesterday. Freddie Freeman was awesome. So over 1.5 bases. Now this is at plus 115, which is, I think, pretty good value. I took a closer look. Now he's only gotten to that in 4 games this season. So I think that's why it's on the plus side. But he's batting .310 this season. He's been playing awesome. His career numbers against Fried, .333 average, 7 for 21 with a home run in there as well. So he has some good statistics on his side when you're talking about his numbers historically. Against Fried, I think he goes over 1.5 and we'll see if the streak continues. Where are you headed for your prop bet?
I like it. And Turner is one of the ones that I was talking about that's hit Fried very hard. I am going to Boston. We're going JD Martinez.
Shipping up to Boston.
Plus
I like
130.
Okay.
The value was just
plus 130?
Plus 130.
Wow.
It was way too good to pass up to get an RBI. So multiple guys in front of Freeman have great wobos, so they could get on base. Kikuchi's also giving up a lot of hard contact to righties. Meanwhile, JD Martinez has a .413 woba and a 292 ISO. He was actually, I almost picked him to be my home run call. So I like him quite a bit, but I pivoted, and he is my prop bet. To get over 0.5 RBIs plus 130.
Awesome. So keep an eye on our prop bets. Yes. And am I going to get an 8 tomorrow?
Hopefully.
You'll have to watch tomorrow and see.
Let's go.
This is awesome. So excited about that. Now, remember, you can follow us for more stats and analytics to help you place your prop bets. Make sure to go to linestarapp.com. And if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Best of luck to you out there on your prop bets and your daily fantasy. And we'll see you again tomorrow.
Have a good one.